Hi everyone! Welcome back to another episode of Talks in Class. I'm your host, Jenna, and I'm thrilled to be here with all of you for another episode. A fun one this week. I'm very excited. Thank you all so much for joining me today. I hope everybody's had a nice couple of weeks since we last got together here on the podcast. I am recording this on Monday, but by the time this episode comes out on Friday, I will be in Vegas, which I'm very excited about because the reason I'm going is for the Lovers and Friends Music Festival. If you're a millennial, you're probably already familiar with this event. It is a massive one-day music festival. I guess they do it in one day because they assume that all of us old people won't be able to handle more than one day. But it has so many artists. I don't know how they managed to get them all organized in one day. This is the first time I'm going. I think it's the third one. I have a couple of friends who've gone in past years. So it is going to be quite a day, a very long day. I'm already hydrating and like popping Advil, preventative Advil, because it's going to be a long day standing in the sun on my feet. So that is coming up this weekend. I'm really excited about it. If anybody out there is going to be there, let me know. Definitely say hi if you see me. I know there's going to be a lot of other content creators, nostalgia content creators that are there, so I'm excited to meet some other people. I haven't been to Vegas in about 15 years. I don't think that it's my scene, my vibe. So I don't know. I don't really know what to expect, but my friend who is coming with me, she lives back on the East Coast. We're going to make a little girls weekend of it and hang by the pool and maybe go see a show and go to dinner and stuff. So I'm really excited to see her and just kind of have a little mini vacay, and obviously super excited about the show. Other than that, it's kind of business as usual over here. Not much new to report as per usual. I feel like I say that every single week now. My life is boring, you guys. That's the bottom line, the moral of the story. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I have been deep in a girls rewatch, which was one of my favorite shows from the entire decade of the 2010s. It just is such a great representation of what my life was like in New York City at that same time, being the same age as them. So that's been a really fun rewatch. I'm watching it from the beginning. And I also started watching the show Under the Bridge, which is on Hulu. I watched the first 3 episodes over the weekend, and I think it comes out now weekly after that. You know, the streamers are doing that now. They're making us wait. That's a throwback in itself. The fact that we can't binge something now, we have to wait. But so far it's really good. I haven't had a show grab me like that from the first couple episodes in a really long time. So I have high hopes for that one. So if you're looking for something and you're into like true crime kind of stuff, that might be one to check out. So as always, I will start this off with my what good happened. And because there are 2 weeks in between each podcast episode right now, I actually have 2, and I think that's fair because 2 things, 2 weeks. So the first is I did a collab post, a social media video with one of my content creator friends who I haven't met in person, but we're, internet friends, Chelsea Firth. We did a fun little video about prom in 2004. So if you follow either one of us on social media, you probably saw that. And that was really, really fun. I always like to work with other creators in whatever way that I can. And then the other one, speaking of collaborating with other creators, I got to be a guest on a podcast actually just right before this, the Bitchipedia podcast. And she and I found each other on TikTok. We've been following each other for a long time, I think through our mutual love of Bravo. So it was fun to chat with her. We talked about all things nostalgia. We talked a lot about paparazzi culture in the 2000s. We talked a lot about fashion. So it was a really fun one. And again, I always just like when I can connect with other creators. So as I mentioned, this is an episode that I'm really excited for. It is a deep dive, sort of, a deep nostalgia dive into one of the most influential shows for me personally from my childhood and teen years, of course starring the iconic Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen, So Little Time. When it comes to nostalgic media, or I guess just nostalgic experiences in general, I feel like there are those kind of universal ones that pretty much all of us remember. They impacted all of us. And maybe that impact wasn't necessarily because of our own attachment to it or how much we personally liked it or even our own engagement with it, but just because of their general cultural impact, their popularity, their cultural pervasiveness. Those movies or those TV shows or songs that were just super popular, you know, the overplayed radio songs, the things that everybody knew no matter what, you know, things like the OC, the show The OC, or Barbie Girl by Aqua, or the movie Titanic. You couldn't escape them. If you were the target demographic for those things, it was going to be on your radar. It was going to impact you in some way, regardless of how much you really liked it personally. But then there are these other things that maybe didn't have that massive cultural impact, weren't as popular, but for some reason just impacted us individually in these really big ways and kind of implanted into us for some reason along the line. Like maybe it was that one movie that your family had taped off of TV onto a VHS tape, so you just watched it over and over and over, or your first CD because it was literally the only CD that you had, so you listened to it over and over and over. Or maybe it was a TV show that your older sibling really loved that you just happened to watch along with them, but you were a little too young for it. Or like this is what happens with soap operas a lot because people remember watching them with their parents or their grandparents, even though they weren't really the target demographic for them. A couple that come to mind for me are that Celine Dion song with the violin. I can hear the violin part. I think it's called To Love You More. I don't know what, I have no idea where this came from, but my friends and I were obsessed with this song. We put it on every Burn CD and we would air violin to it, like play, like instead of air guitar, like air violin in the car. I don't know. I can't explain it. Also, speaking of songs, the song Cars That Go Boom. Does anyone remember this song? I'm pretty sure it's from the late 80s. You know, we're Tigra and Bunny and we like the boom. Please tell me where I even heard that song as a middle schooler in the year 2000, 2001, and why I was so obsessed. I deeply, deeply obsessed with it. My best friend at the time and I listened to it over and over and over, like to the point where one of my mom's friends started calling her Bunny Barclay because that song was always playing in our house. I'm pretty sure actually that woman still calls my mom Bunny Barclay over 20 years later, and I still know all the words for it. It doesn't make sense. Also, the movie Camp Nowhere is one of these for me. Really irrationally huge impact on me. And this is because my mom rented it for me at the grocery store when I got chickenpox in second grade. And I was home by myself with chickenpox, so I just watched it over and over and over again until I had to return it. And then when it comes to TV, there is the very short-lived Mary-Kate and Ashley sitcom, So Little Time. I, like many girls my age, grew up somewhat obsessed with Mary-Kate and Ashley. I'm right around their age. I think I'm pretty much exactly 1 year younger than them. So I feel like our generation really did feel like we grew up with them in a sense. Like I watched them on Full House when I was also really young. Then I watched their cringy early direct-to-video movies where they sang songs about going to grandma's house or solved mysteries or whatever. Like, thank God I was never a child star because I cringe when I watch them in those old things. I can't imagine having that just out there readily available, you know, to the world of your own childhood. But I really became like a super Olsen Twins fan around middle school when I realized that they were the fashion icons that I so desperately wanted at that specific age. Billboard Dad from 1998 and Passport to Paris from 1999 were like gold for tween girls at this time because we didn't really have a lot of girls our own age for us to look to for things like fashion outside of people that we knew socially. You know what I mean? Like I read magazines and things like that, but a lot of that stuff, the vast majority of that stuff was aimed for a little bit older girls, teenage girls, not girls who were 10, 11, 12 years old like I was. And a lot of young stars, TV stars, movie stars at the time were on networks like the Disney Channel or Nickelodeon where the styling was just, it was very specific to those networks, but it was very unrealistic. Like I was not going to go to middle school looking like Lizzie McGuire as much as I loved her outfits. It wasn't going to happen. But the Olsen twins being almost exactly my age really made it I mean, it just made it so easy. Like whenever I wanted to see what a cool girl my age was wearing, I could just rent their latest movie and proceed to then beg my parents to buy me a crossbody backpack or a hibiscus print tank top or take me to the salon for a cute little layered haircut, which I would attempt to flip out at the ends so that I could look like them. And I think the really fun thing about them too was that there were two of them, right? And they usually played kind of opposite personalities. That was a really big thing in pretty much all of their movies and shows. Mary-Kate would usually be the like more sporty one, kind of a tomboy or the edgier one. And then Ashley would be the girlier one, the preppier one. So they had their own style, but then each movie and show really had its own feel and its own style, kind of depending on the setting. Like Winning London's style was very different from like Holiday in the Sun style. And, you know, all of these things had their own specific like aesthetics that you could draw from. Like, I think Billboard Dad truly was probably where my personal obsession with the surf beachy aesthetic really began. Like, I thought they looked so cool as little tween surfer girls in Venice. So there was, you know, relatively speaking, a good variety of inspo, of fashion inspo that you could find in their TV and movies. But I don't know what it was specifically about So Little Time that just grabbed me, like instantly grabbed me and pulled me in. But this very short-lived, like one season sitcom that aired on Fox Family lives rent-free in my mind to this day. I still have entire episodes basically memorized over 2 full decades later, and I verified this because I rewatched it this week, all of it, and I was speaking the lines along with them, and I have not seen this show. I mean, I can't even count how many years it's been since I've seen the show. It's just one of those things that influenced me so much more than it should have, like rationally speaking, for some reason, and I really don't know why. Its impact on me was certainly disproportionate to its cultural impact because I feel like a lot of people don't remember the show, and probably for good reason. So if you're unfamiliar with the show, or you've just forgotten because it has been 23 years, now is a good time to remind you. So Little Time was a sitcom, and it was focused on the characters of Chloe and Riley Carlson, twin teenage girls, obviously played by Mary-Kate and Ashley, living in Malibu, California, casual, with their separated parents, Macy and Jake Carlson, who are fashion designers. I mean, talk about my literal teenage dream. This is actually probably the exact explanation for why this was so impactful to me. If 15-year-old Jenna could have designed my perfect dream life, I absolutely would have said that I want to live in a super cool modern beach house in Malibu and have parents who were fashion designers. I mean, obviously. And then there's their housekeeper slash nanny, Manuelo, who provides a lot of comic relief for the show. He's got a lot of one-liners, and of course his classic catchphrase, "I don't hate it." Chloe and Riley obviously are twins, but they are different. They have different personalities. They have a somewhat different style, as is standard in an Olsen Twins project, although those differences are not as pronounced in So Little Time. They're not as different as the girls often are in a lot of their TV shows and movies. They're not polar opposites the way that they are, for example, in New York Minute. I mean, they couldn't be more different. It's not quite that extreme in So Little Time. But speaking of their other characters and their other movies, you may remember that their characters' names in the movie Winning London were also Chloe and Riley. And Winning London has a lot of kind of weird crossover with So Little Time. First of all, there's the names. In Winning London, Mary-Kate played Chloe and Ashley played Riley. But for some reason, when they made So Little Time, they kept the names, but they swapped. So on So Little Time, Mary-Kate is Riley and Ashley is Chloe, which is very confusing. And then throughout most of the show, Chloe is obsessed with a boy at school, a bad boy, named Travis Morgan, who is played by an actor named Brandon Tyler. That's a lot of first names, Travis Morgan, Brandon Tyler. Anyway, Brandon Tyler, who plays Travis Morgan on So Little Time, played Brian in Winning London, who is the boy that one of them, I'm getting confused now, I think Riley has a crush on in Winning London, same actor. And then the theme song of So Little Time, which I think is just called So Little Time, is actually in the movie Winning London. So a lot of influence there. Safe to say that Winning London definitely influenced the series So Little Time. I'm not exactly sure how that all came to be, but I like all the connections. They also were both released in the same year, 2001. The Olsen twins were booked and busy in 2001. I was shocked when I started looking this up and how much they did in such a short period of time. But 2001, especially, in 2001 alone, they released Winning London, the iconic classic Holiday in the Sun, starring a young Megan Fox as the mean girl, and their show So Little Time. Oh my God, actually, I just realized one of the guys in Holiday in the Sun, like one of the main guys, was also in an episode of So Little Time where one of them, I think Riley, I don't know, one of them pretends to be in a wheelchair because she has a crush on a guy at school who's also in a wheelchair. And that same actor was Kyle on 8 Simple Rules. And while we're talking about people who popped up on an episode of So Little Time, a lot happened in this one short season of the show. There is an episode featuring Drake Bell and his band. I guess he's just playing himself or like as the band. It's an episode of some sort of benefit or something, some sort of benefit show that they're hosting, and Drake's band is in it. Anyway, back to the show. We have the Carlsons and their nanny slash housekeeper, Manuelo. Then there is Teddy, who is a supermodel who Jake and Macy, the parents, have worked with in the fashion industry, but is also sort of their friend. Like, she hangs out with them. And then, of course, there is Larry Slotnick, a boy from school who's obsessed with Riley, like to the point where he climbs the side of the house somehow to like hang from Riley's window, which is kind of creepy. He shows up to their house unannounced all the time. He hides in Riley's locker, you know, quirky teenage boy stuff. Like, he just has a crush on you, so he's gonna literally stalk you. Typical sitcom stuff. He is definitely the Kimmy Gibbler character of So Little Time. I feel like every sitcom, especially in the 90s, had this. Like somebody like Kimmy or Urkel in those early years of, is it Family Matters? Yeah, Family Matters. Roger on Sister Sister is literally a perfect example of this Larry character. It's the annoying neighbor or friend who's just kind of always around, but they weren't really invited, and the cast seems annoyed with them, but kind of secretly loves them. So that is Larry. And speaking of 8 Simple Rules, there is also Cammy, who we meet a little bit later into the show and eventually kind of dates Larry, who is played by Amy Davidson, who played Carrie on 8 Simple Rules. This is like a whole Olsen Twins extended universe. I love it. So, like most teen-centered shows of the time, the show has storylines about the kids, but also about the parents, which I thoroughly enjoyed upon a rewatch, as I find myself enjoying when I rewatch a lot of teen media as an adult now. But most of the show's plot lines obviously revolve around Mary-Kate and Ashley, considering it's their show, produced by them, made by their production company that they own. So it revolves around Chloe and Riley's lives as teenage girls. Boys, the girls' misadventures and kind of like problems with boys, school troubles, wanting to be cool, and a lot of kind of general teenage mischief, I think is the word that I would use. As a mischievous teen myself, not quite, well, no, I guess I would probably say I was rebellious, but maybe not quite as rebellious as just mischievous. This is something that I actually really appreciated about tween and teen oriented media at that time, but especially like the younger tween media. There was a decent amount of TV that showed young people not getting into trouble, but kind of like testing boundaries. Nothing crazy. I mean, we're not talking about Gossip Girl behavior here. We're not talking about like CW show level of mischief, but like they weren't always perfect in their shows and movies. And this is something that I think was just a lot easier to find back then. But I appreciated that about Mary-Kate and Ashley and similar things, but especially about this show. There are actually multiple episodes, thinking back, where the girls are kind of getting into trouble at school or with their parents. And a lot of it is because of some sort of like, you know, crossed wires or some sort of mishap. But there's one episode where I think it's Chloe decides to intentionally get detention because she has a crush on the bad boy, Travis Morgan, who is, quote, in detention so much he gets his mail sent there. That's a direct quote from one of the Olsens, I think Ashley. I'm not sure, but I think. And then there's one of my favorite episodes, which if you watch the show, this is probably the episode that you also remember the most. Riley and Chloe get invited to a secret after hours party by the resident rebel girl at high school. So they decide that they're going to go. They're going to seize this opportunity, and they give themselves bad girl makeovers, which, I mean, you have to appreciate the effort that they put into these outfits. The casting department just really went all out. Pink and blue, like, chunky hair extensions, fake tattoos, I think fake nose rings, a lot of just like like their outfits looked like they came from Hot Topic, but like make it kind of basic. And also a new, quote, bad girl walk, which is another, again, direct quote from one of them. I don't know. But these are the most amazing outfits ever. Definitely the most amazing outfits, most memorable outfits for sure of the series. And of course, at the end of the episode, they don't go to the party. They actually just fall asleep and miss the party entirely, which as a 37-year-old, I now relate to deeply. But I remember watching it and thinking unironically that their rebel girl outfits were very cool. And I really liked them. Even if they weren't actually rebels, I appreciated the aesthetic of the episode. There's also an episode where they cheat on schoolwork. There's one where they steal money from a school fundraiser, but whatever. Being a wholesome Fox family show for, you know, families, it always works out at the end, and we are reminded that at the end of the day, the girls are good, well-meaning young ladies. They're just being teenagers. Also, on a rewatch, I am a bit shook, if we still say that, shaken by how young the parents looked. Like, am I technically old enough to have 15-year-old twin daughters? Sure, yes. Technically, yes, that is true. But watching this now and seeing the mom wearing a midriff-bearing tank top with low-rise jeans, I'm like, oh, cool mom. She's not a regular mom. She's a cool mom. No way in hell my mom would have been wearing anything like that in 2001. So yeah, I think Macy Carlson was definitely a cool mom. I mean, also she was a fashion designer who hung out with supermodels, so cool mom. The show premiered on Fox Family Channel in June 2001, so I was just finishing up 8th grade when it premiered. And the Fox Family Channel in general was pretty short-lived. It actually only existed from 1998 to 2001, which I didn't realize. And I guess it was supposed to just be another kid-focused network. They probably intended to compete with Nickelodeon and Disney Channel type programming, but they also had more tween or like young teen focused shows, which I really loved because, again, that was just a little bit harder to find at the time. I remember watching so much Fox Family Channel around this time, especially like 1999, 2000, which would have been my 7th grade year. And they showed a lot of Mary-Kate and Ashley movies, which I taped really often. And yes, I still have the tapes. They are amazing. I found one a couple of years ago. It's from, I think, the summer of the year 2000, and I taped an entire Mary-Kate and Ashley marathon off of the Fox Family Channel. It has Passport to Paris, Billboard Dad, and then Two of a Kind, which, iconic. But the best part about it are the commercials, by far. I mean, commercials from the year 2000s. There's regular commercials for regular products, but then there are the Fox Family Channel commercials for their other programming. They're amazing. There's so much S Club 7 promotional material on these commercial breaks. I actually Googled this, and it was the year 2000 because that's when the S Club 7 Road Trip Across America aired. So this tape is indeed from summer of the year 2000. So there's a lot of S Club 7 commercials. There's commercials for Angela Anaconda. Do you guys remember that show? It was so weird. If you don't remember how bizarre this show was, Google it and just look at image results. It will all come flooding back. It was super weird. And then the tape has these little Mary-Kate and Ashley trivia questions at the end of every commercial break, right before they go back into whatever the actual movie or show was, because it was a Mary-Kate and Ashley marathon. And they also showed, I remember, besides all of the Mary-Kate and Ashley and like Angela Anaconda, they would show some older shows on Fox Family. I'm pretty sure I remember watching My So-Called Life on that channel. So, I mean, really epic programming all around. High five, Fox Family Channel circa the year 2000. But I really do think that I mostly watched it for Mary-Kate and Ashley content. So obviously, I loved So Little Time when it premiered in 2001. So Little Time was actually Mary-Kate and Ashley's third television series. Of course, there was Full House, which launched their careers when they were literally babies. And then in 1998, they started another, unfortunately short-lived sitcom, Two of a Kind, which was part of the TGIF lineup, very important to our childhoods in the late 90s. And So Little Time was their third TV series, which only lasted a single season. It aired from June 2001 to May 2002, but it actually had kind of like this forced hiatus in the middle because Fox Family Channel was sold during this time and then became ABC Family, which is probably what a lot of people remember it as more so than Fox Family. So the show was off the air for a few months during that transition of ownership, and then it returned after that transition was over for the second half of that first and only season. And I've always kind of wondered if there were two seasons or what happened, because it was actively on TV with new episodes for almost a full year. I mean, June of 2001 to May of 2002. But it is only one season altogether. There are only 26 episodes of this show. They just aired in these two installments, basically. My true obsession, the deep obsession that I had for this show, really started after it aired, though, when for some reason I bought it on VHS. Okay, not even DVD, VHS. Probably in 2002. It was shortly after it aired because I was still pretty early on I was in high school, but early on in high school. And you know, it was probably on super sale at like Walmart in those, remember when they used to have those bins of VHS tapes at Walmart and Target and places like that, and they were all like $5? I probably grabbed it from one of those. I don't know, but I had this TV VCR combo in my bedroom. It's actually still in my bedroom at my mom's house. It still works. That is what I use to watch these old VHS tapes. And I don't think it had cable. Like, I don't think the cable was hooked up in my room. Those were the days when you had to have a box, and I don't think I had one. So I really just had to rely on VHS tapes if I wanted to watch something in my room. And I still remember sitting in my room in early high school, probably early sophomore year, which would have been 2002, chatting on AIM or talking on the phone or reading a magazine, and those So Little Time tapes were just playing in the background pretty much all the time, because again, I didn't really have a lot of VHS tapes that I could just pop in and let them play, and this was like a TV show that could just play in the background. I even put the theme song on a burned CD, which I found recently, and I still have, and I think I actually screamed when that song came on. I was like, oh my God, I was really obsessed with this show. I mean, that went deeper than I even had remembered. And looking back on so many of my outfit choices and my hair choices, I was just so influenced by Mary-Kate and Ashley, but specifically by this show, you guys. I remember when it first came out in 2001, it was kind of this turning point in fashion where you could start to feel that we were moving away from the 90s, and there was this moment where this sort of Western, boho, very casual thing was really popular. To me, this feels very specifically 2001 and 2002, which was my freshman year of high school. And they wore some of these styles, these types of styles on the show, like plaid button-down shirts with pearl snap buttons, or big leather belts, or a lot of like leather strap necklaces. They wear a lot of this stuff on the show, but they also had this just perfect California cool girl casual look that I wanted to emulate so badly. And I mean, it was a sitcom starring 15-year-old girls, so it was a little bit overstyled, but it was not overdone in the way that fashion was in pretty much every other teen show. It really felt accessible. Even watching now, when I just watched it the past few days, the outfits feel primarily pretty real. I mean, there's a couple exceptions, but for the most part, I would have worn their outfits head to toe. I mean, accessories, shoes, all of it, to my high school in 2001, which was very rare for a teen, especially television show at the time, or probably still now. I mean, I don't know if people are really dressing like Euphoria characters in real life or not, but in my day, we were not. But especially their sweater collection. I think every time this show comes up, which is more often than you would think, on my social media, almost everybody mentions the sweaters. I don't know what it was about these sweaters. They had this amazing collection of these duster cardigans, you know, those long open cardigans. And I don't know, I guess they were probably trending in 2001 in general because I definitely bought some. Like they were available in stores at the time. But when I think about wearing those duster sweaters in high school, I instantly think of So Little Time. If you remember anything about fashion on the show, it's probably those sweaters or maybe the iconic bad girl outfits from the party episode. But in the opening credits, if you remember the show, this is probably what you remember. In the opening credits, they're walking on the beach. They're both wearing jeans and tank tops. It's very effortless, very cool girl. And then they have inverted color coordinating fringe duster sweaters over them. So one of them has a white tank top with the dark colored duster. It's in black and white. So white tank top, dark colored duster. One of them has a black tank top with the white duster. So iconic. And they wear so many of these sweaters throughout the show. I am convinced that this is where my own brief obsession with dusters came from, but it's a chicken or the egg thing. Like, were dusters popular and the Olsen twins adopted that? Or did they put this in their wardrobe selection for some reason and I just thought it was popular because I was so obsessed with the show? I truly don't know. And I know I've mentioned this before, but when I was a freshman in high school, the lowest possible point on the high school food chain, I bought and wore a shin length purple fur trimmed duster sweater to high school. I walked down the halls in that, delulu as can be, thinking I looked amazing. Actually, I still have it and it is kind of amazing. It's kind of itchy, but it's kind of cool. And it is absolutely something that I could see one of them wearing on this show. They would wear it over a simple pair of jeans with flip-flops and maybe a necklace with some sort of leather strap or like a, you know, like a little pendant on it. And that's exactly how I styled it because, again, influenced. We also cannot possibly talk about this show without discussing their hair. The Olsens always had amazing hair. They're the reason I got a short layered haircut and bought a blow dry brush in 8th grade way back in the year 2000 in attempts to achieve that flipped out PC hairstyle that they had. But in So Little Time, they gave us the iconic and very ahead of its time half curl, half straight hairstyle. If you watch the show, you already know what I'm talking about, but it's not great, okay? Now I guess some people would call this a Utah curl. You could call it a beach wave, but it was an extreme version of this. It wasn't like a normal Utah curl. It was the entire bottom third, at least, maybe even the bottom half of their hair was completely like flat iron straight. So they just had these loose curls and they weren't like, it didn't look like they like finger combed them out. They were fully formed loose waves at the top of their hair and then really straight, kind of stringy looking ends. It was not cute, honestly. I mean, I love them, but that was not it. But when I saw that in 2001, I mean, holy hell, you guys, I was like, the innovation, they're geniuses. Oh my God, fashion icons, hold the phone, stop the presses. I was pretty bold with my hair and style choices in high school, I have to say. I did not shy away from many trends. There are very few things that I didn't attempt, but I did not attempt that hairstyle. I guess maybe it was because my hair was still too short because of the flipped out hairstyle that I have. But I like to give myself some credit and say that I did not, for the record, ever attempt to wear that hairstyle in the 2000s. However, it was iconic. People still talk about it whenever the show comes up. And speaking of iconic, I'm going to wrap this up with a list, of course. This is my top 5 most influential Mary-Kate and Ashley looks of all time for me personally. And this was very hard to narrow down to just 5. But on some level, I think that all of these looks are still impacting me. So here you go. Number 5, all of the hibiscus print and shell necklaces in the movie Our Lips Are Sealed. Between Billboard Dad and then Our Lips Are Sealed, my personality was forever altered. in the late 90s and early 2000s because of the Olsen twins. These two movies combined are what made me believe for probably the rest of my life that like the beachy surfer style was the epitome of effortless cool girl style. And again, on some level, I will admit this, I was just looking at a shell necklace today online. It's not like the old puka shells. It's like a chain with a little shell. I promise it's cute. I don't know. Again, impacted for life. Number 4, this is very specific, but the tube tops in Holiday in the Sun, and even more specific, the tube tops with a triangle bikini top tan line. I don't know if this is the first time I saw it or if this is just when it imprinted on me as like, this is what cool girls do, but seeing the Olsen twins wear a tube top with a bikini top tan line underneath it in Holiday in the Sun started a very, very long period of time where I thought wearing a tube top with the bikini tan line, again, was just the height of cool girl style. It looked so effortless. It was like beachy. It was like, I don't care about my tan lines. I'm still going to wear the tube top. I don't know. I don't know what made me think it was so cool, but I literally was so influenced. I would bring a bikini top with me to the tanning salon, and I would go into the room and I'd put the bikini top on and lay down in the bed so that I could get the tan line on purpose. And I wanted it to be like really distinct and really contrasted. So again, influenced. Number 3, the duster sweaters in So Little Time. Again, I think, you know, the theme here, the theme throughout all of this is effortlessly cool. There was something about the Olsen twins that could take really trendy things and make them look cool. But then in the case of like the duster sweater or some of their other things, like some of the really tomboy styles, things that weren't necessarily really trendy or didn't seem really trendy, and they could also make that look cool. I mean, my mom probably had duster sweaters in 2001, but when I saw the Olsen twins wear them, I ran. I did not walk. I ran to the mall. Actually, that's not true. I begged my mom to drive me to the mall because I couldn't drive yet, to stock up on duster sweaters. And I still think duster sweaters are cool. I actually have one in my closet right now. So lifelong influence, 3 out of 3. Number 2, this might be controversial, but the boho era of the Olsen twins, but specifically Mary-Kate's brunette boho era, this was a little bit before the NYU days where they went kind of off the rails and started to look a little dumpster divey. This was in the mid 2000s, like immediately after New York Minute era, like brunette Mary-Kate era. We're talking a lot of beaded necklaces era. We're talking a lot of velvets and satin fabrics worn all at once era. We're talking the super messy, like Serena van der Woodsen wavy curls era. Once again, effortless, cool, chic AF, could do no wrong. I had so many pictures of Mary-Kate in these different boho outfits pinned all over bulletin boards so that I could just try to harness an ounce of that style into my wardrobe. And I think the closest I ever got was like wearing a stack of bangles on my arms, but man, I tried. And number 1, the most influential Mary-Kate and Ashley look for me personally, but I do think that this one is somewhat universal, is the flipped out hairstyle, specifically in the movie Our Lips Are Sealed, but really you could sub in a lot of Mary-Kate and Ashley content for that movie. They rocked this hairstyle unlike anybody else. And this hairstyle was everywhere around this time. Make no mistake. I think about Brittany Murphy in 8 Mile had that hairstyle. Britney Spears wore this hairstyle. I mean, a lot of celebrities wore it. But to this day, when I see any photo of anybody with that hairstyle, when I think about that hairstyle, when I think about myself wearing that hairstyle, even well into high school, like in 2003, when I was still wearing this hairstyle, it was because of the Olsen twins. And I think a lot of people would agree with that. I've talked about this a lot with other people, and it seems that we all at some point in our tween lives saw Mary-Kate and Ashley with that hairstyle. And if we didn't do it like I did, we at least thought about it. So they really were my original influencers. I will leave it there. I might actually have to go track down Our Lips Are Sealed so I can watch it now, because that's one I haven't seen in a long time. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode as much as I did. This was a fun one. I love an Olsen Twins deep dive. I could talk about this stuff all day. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did enjoy, I always appreciate it if you share the episode or share the podcast in general with friends. That helps me out a ton. I will see you guys next time. Bye.